Miles. Thanks for coming tonight. First training session for another year of the vets cycle. It's going to be pretty fun. So glad to have you all on board to help us get through things. Kira, do you want to say anything before we continue?
Yeah, so grateful that you all are here. I'm really excited to get into this new cohort. I was curious, how many people, I know a lot of you have done the reviews before, but who's new to the admissions process? Oh, okay, so it's actually like quite a few. Well, hopefully it'll be more fun than stressful. We have simplified a lot this year, so it it'll hopefully go by pretty quick, but super grateful that you're all here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll just go ahead and jump into things. Does everyone have the instruction document that I sent out this morning, like ready and available in front of them? Cool. I'll just go ahead and share my screen and we'll go over that super fast. It has some general instructions on how to use Discord and not Discord, geez, I'm thinking of other programs, Submittable, but we'll go over it real quick here. So up top here, we've laid out sort of what the initial review periods are. We have roughly a week for each review. So the quicker you guys get your review things done, the better. So we're going to be on a pretty tight timeline, but we're going to simplify things so your reviews should be a whole lot easier this year. Uh, right here, we have guidelines for what more or less constitutes a strong or a weak applicant. And I'll just read through these so we're all kind of on the same page. And I'll show you some examples in a few here. So a strong application demonstrates strong screenwriting skills, very specifically screenwriting skills or potential, willingness to collaborate, strong work ethic, clear sense of self-motivation, and an inclusive attitude. That is important. The personal statement is entertaining, touching, and or engaging, as well as informative. There are no errors in the writing sample, log lines, or essay questions. Overall, the applicant's passion for the craft and foundational skill set is readily apparent. Now, a weak application is the other side of that. It lacks screenwriting skills or displays an attitude that is incongruous with the program. Personal statement is short, uninspired, and or fails to display the writer's voice. The writing sample contains errors, poor structure, and or lacks a clear plot. The applicant is not ready for mentorship and or would not thrive in a group setting. Now, all of you have gone through the Veterans Writing Project, so you know more or less what it takes to thrive in the program. I'm sure you've all seen various levels of success and stuff. So you know what to look out for as far as who's going to do well and who might not. So trust yourself when it comes to that with your own experiences as well as those around you that you saw. Now, who here has used Submittable before, just by like a show of hands? Pretty much everyone. Have you done anything on the review side of Submittable or just the submission side? Just the submission side? Okay, cool. I mean, just the, got you. So the instructions here kind of lay out how to get into all of the review things. So once you log into Submittable, the submissions area is where you're going to start to look. Your assignments will just directly show up there whenever they are populated. And we'll send those out on the first day of reviews, which is March 17th. And those will be according to the numbers that you said you were okay to review, just depending on how many people we actually get applying this year. Then when you've gone into your actual assignment, you'll click on the name. It's the easiest way to get into it. And that should pull up all of their information so you can see everything that they typed in their application. And I'll show you directly in Submittable in just a minute here. And then you'll read through all of the materials submitted with the guidelines in mind, these few things that we're looking for here. And then you'll actually go over onto the right-hand side of your screen and hit review. This is where you'll give us a vote on whether or not they should continue and a little bit about why you believe they should or shouldn't. And then this will change kind of depending on what review period you're in. If for this first review, it should show up under stage 1. For the next stage during blah, 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 March 25th to 31st, it'll show up as stage number 2. So just pay attention, making sure that you are in the right review stage for every applicant. But make sure you also hit this complete review button after you've finished your review. It's very important because if you don't hit that, it won't actually save the information and you have accidentally wasted your own time. So apologies, please hit complete review. It's very important. Now, Then you'll have just a few prompts, especially for this first round. We're going to keep it nice and simple because we have a lot of applications to get through, and it's a heavy lift to get through all of it. So we're going to keep it nice and quick. And then confirm, please, that your review was actually submitted. Again, I don't want you to have to retype anything or repush buttons, anything like that. And your name will pop up on the review tab, and you'll kind of see all of that in just a second here. And if you have any questions about your assignments or whenever you do finish, please email me because I may have more reviews that I could use you for if you have the time. So definitely let me know. All right. Any questions about the instructions document? Great. Okay, cool. Well, let's take a look at how submittable will more or less look for you. It might look a little bit different just because I'm on my foundation account. But when you have successfully navigated to your submission window, it should look roughly like this. And this is all of the applications that have been currently submitted. You won't have all of them. You'll only have the ones that are assigned to you. But this is what it will show up like when you're going to review. So you'll just click on the name right here. And this is what it will look like when you open it up. All of the information will be populated there. DD214, all of the questions that we asked on the application. Just review it very carefully. Make sure you open all their files and have read through everything thoroughly. It is a little bit, but it is very important. And then, like we'd said, the review things are on the side here. And I'll show you on a different application what those look like. I have some good examples and some bad examples to take a look at. Any questions as of yet? I don't want to lose anybody here. No?
Nope.
Okay. So show of hands, who wants to start with a good application? All right, we'll go to the bad right away. Just Noah, only Noah. All right. So this is, I went through and I found an application that would just be a very hard thing to vote yes on. It's just an example of what not to do. But, if they're your friend, I apologize. So right off the bat here, it's just, there's nothing terrible to look at with all this information. Their DD214 didn't really have any problems on it. You can click in. You all know DD214s. Look for the classification of their discharge, please, because that can be very, very informative for this process. So just review that. If you see any red flags there, please let us know, and we'll make some sort of investigation / decision with the best of our abilities. This is just demographics information. It is important to pay attention to this just to make sure that you aren't only passing forward one specific group of people. We want to keep this as diverse as possible. So just pay attention to make sure you are not accidentally excluding all women or something like that. I say women because typically they're looked over. Now, moving forward, format and genre preferences. This is an interesting kind of moment to learn a little bit about somebody. You can kind of see feature, live action, limited series, feature. They're focused in that space, which is good. That's not a problem. They have longer form content that they want to work on. Their genres are pretty clear. Thriller, drama, Western. That's great. I'm from South Texas and West Texas. There are many stories to be written and unheard voices in these communities. That's a great answer. I kind of get why they want to do that, and it's pretty simple. Now, these are not terrible films to reference, but this is interesting that they referenced a YouTube series. This was slight flag, but not sure. So moving forward, they self-identified as a beginner, which to me is a positive. I tend to get leery when someone self-identifies as advanced because usually they're probably not. So just pay attention to that. If they can back up how they're advanced, then fantastic. That's great. But otherwise, just make a mental note. No formal screenwriting education or instruction. That's not a terrible thing. Formal education isn't for everybody. We all find it in our own different ways. However, have you completed any scripts of any form? No, they never have. That's a huge red flag. We want to make sure that we are admitting people into the program who have at least given the college try to writing a screenplay in some form or fashion. That could be a short film, anything like that. But if they haven't even given an attempt, then that's going to be a hard no right away for us. We have in the past accepted people who submitted prose samples as their application material to varying degrees of success. Just with where we're aiming now with the program, it makes more sense that we want people who have given it a shot at least once, even if it's not fantastic. So automatic red flag there. Poetry. Have you received feedback on your screenwriting in the past? On your writing in the past? This is an important question because feedback is obviously a huge part of the program. Is this text too small or should I zoom in?
Yeah, a little bigger.
A little bigger? Okay.
Thank you.
That worked. Alan?
Yep.
Cool,
Great.
cool. All right. I've just started with feedback. Okay. People in my life encourage me to write. I write to help my community and hopefully bring my philosophy to the world. Other people believe in me, so this has led me to believe in myself. I have the potential, but I need the resources. I told I'm a natural poet and a great storyteller to record myself and transcribe my stories. I could read the whole thing, but does anyone want to tell me like why that's maybe not the best response so far? I'll take any volunteer, anyone. Hannah?
Something about this is very like GPT. I don't know if
That's
it's
fair.
it just does not seem human.
That's fair.
Because it's not consistent. That's my initial.
Yeah, that's a good note. And there are ways to check that. I have a few different links. There's a bunch of different chat GPT detectors and that kind of thing. You want to run them through at least 3 because then you'll start to get a better gauge because they have different detection ways. If you have questions about that, I can cover that also. But any other ideas? Because I'm looking for one specific answer. But
I've been
Well,
nicknamed
first,
Hollywood.
lots of Hollywood. Yeah.
they have some. I'm not a huge stickler, like, oh God, you misspelled things, but it does feel like this person was train of thought rather than like a coherent story. Like this is just blah, right?
Sure.
So she can't even tell me a story like in her thing. Like if she has this natural talent to tell a story, then I would like to see it demonstrated, even if she doesn't know how to write a script.
That's fair. So, that's
He's
an excellent
refer-
point. Yeah.
He
Subject.
keeps referencing that he was told, he or she was told. It doesn't sound like it's coming from a very deep place on that person, but it's what other people have said this and have said that. Well, what do you think? We want to know about you.
Right.
I
Jamie?
would also say that not having any reference point for even how to format or write a script, haven't even like looked up what script writing is about. Like there's a beginner where you're like interested in stuff, and then there's a beginner where it's like someone told me I might be good, and so I applied. So that's like
Sure.
dedicated versus
Yeah.
Curious.
Those are all great points. Oh, do you have something to say, Desiree?
Oh, I was gonna add, the question was feedback on your writing, and I'm going on a journey of being a potential actress.
Right. Yeah,
That's think about writing.
that's very, very close to what I was thinking. This doesn't answer the question at all. I don't know how they handle feedback or how they handle feedback on their writing whatsoever. It kind of dodges the question almost completely. So it doesn't actually give us any insight to how they would handle the mentorship process whatsoever. And that's an important thing to keep in mind because that's the hardest thing for people to get right in this program. So we'll just keep moving forward. I won't linger on every question, just the most important ones, you know? What steps have you taken to pursue a career in television? I'm writing some novellas or musicals on the side while pursuing a second bachelor's in music. Again, this is the same problem. This has nothing to do with a career in television. So that's avoiding the question completely. It's not great. And then this is a semi-decent answer, you know. I hope to gain insight on how to apply technique to my creative process, network lightly, engage with experienced mentors that can give me guidance in the right direction. That's fine. The log lines, this is kind of where you can get a sense of the things that they want to write. It gives you a little bit better idea of who they are as a writer and that sort of thing. And I'll be honest, not everyone's going to get the log lines completely right. Log lines are a weird thing to learn. A lot of people don't know. They should be like one sentence and snappy. Sometimes you'll get a whole paragraph here, and that just kind of lets you know that they're a bit of a beginner. But if they have an interesting story in there and they just need to learn how to write a log line, fine, great, good to know. But keep it in mind. Now, personal statement to me is the most important part of this. It's secondary to the screenwriting itself, but we asked for them to give us 400 words explaining their story, who they are. And I chose this application for a reason. This is the most egregious example of what not to do with a personal statement. That's it. That's the whole thing. It's just 3 sentences. I don't know anything about this person as a result. This is the most important part of the application, and I just don't have a gauge for who this is. It's great that they have stories worth writing, but that doesn't do anything for me. Now, the writing sample. This is important. You all know how to write screenplays. You know what it should look like. So go in here and see if they have what it takes. Let's take a look. That's their writing sample. That's going to be a hard pass just on nature. It's some sort of letter to some other board. It has nothing to do with what we're trying to do here. So I at the end of the day with this application, again, this is their resume as well. I have no idea who this person is as a writer. I have no idea if they're interested in screenwriting. I have no idea how they would handle mentorship. So for us, this would be a pretty easy no, right? For all of you, it should be a fairly easy no. So whenever you've made your decision, now this will look a little bit different because we're going to ask you to give us kind of 2 to 3 sentences to justify your yes or no vote here. So you'll come in, there will be a button that says review. You'll go in and do that, but just give us your vote and a few sentences just explaining your choice, because we want to know why you voted yes or no. It's huge for us as they move forward through the process. And if we're eliminating them, we need kind of to know the reason why. So that is more or less it for a bad application. We can look at a mid-tier one or a good one. Which sounds better? I'll take any advice. Mid? Good?
Mid.
Good?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if we're in the initial review, I would imagine, obviously, if you go into the quarterfinals, whatever, maybe are we a little more grace with the first tier, or is it like, hey, if I signed up, say, for 20 to review, should I be thinking like, oh, there's only 1 or 2 that I'm going to push through? You know what I mean? Like a kind of a.
I would say for this first chunk, like 50% is a good benchmark. We typically get somewhere around like 400 to 500 applications every year. Taking around half of that into the quarterfinal review period would be great. It's not always totally accomplishable, but like that's what we'd like you to kind of think about. We're going to try and guarantee that everyone gets 2 reads here. So if someone gets voted no on, we're going to make sure that someone else reviews them and kind of like verifies that that's a thing. If someone votes yes, they move to the next round and they'll get another read there. So that's kind of how that's going to function here. Did I answer your question? Because I kind of rambled a little bit.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Cool. We'll take a look at a good application. There's a lot of different things in here, and I'll be a little quicker about this one. Lit Kilpatrick here has applied for many, many years, and you'll see that in his application. That's a great thing. We like it when people come back to apply over and over because it means that they didn't get a no and stop. It didn't kill their momentum. That's great, especially if they continued on learning. TD214, all that stuff, you guys know. Demographics, this is really cool. So they've applied to the program all these different years. How did they hear about it? Eli and Greg Cope White were both mentors, told me to list them as references. That's huge. That's great. Amazing. Fellow veterans Eric Leha and Jeremy Jerome also told me about it. Cool. It's great to know that they're a part of the community and involved with our mentors and stuff. That's a huge bonus on an application. So pay attention to that. No writing partner. Cool. Let's see. They want to do TV 1 hour, half-hour, limited series, thriller, comedy, action. Makes perfect sense. I like having a nice detailed response to what sort of TV shows they like. All of that. It's pretty cool. I want to get more or less to like the personal statement because that's really where you're going to start to see the difference. This is great. List any completed TV or feature scripts that you have. They gave us the title, all of the information, solid log lines, explained what they were, all of that. they did it for a lot of stuff. They've been trying very, very hard. That's working a lot, and I think that's great. So the feedback question, let's take a look. Anyone want to volunteer to read that so I can drink some water for a second?
I think Noah wants to.
Oh, for sure, no.
Sure, gotcha. Thanks, Ellen. I've received a lot of feedback. I was a creative writing major in college. Since then, I have been paid to write on 4 different non-union series, each one with different showrunners and producers giving feedback. I find it best to see notes meetings as a chance for collaboration where it is helpful to ask for clarifying questions. It's also important to understand that even when a producer or showrunner likes a draft, they often concentrate their notes on the areas that need improvement. It's good to be mindful of being oversensitive or defensive. Assuming the best rather than the worst is usually the way to take notes. Since the strike, WGA writers and a showrunner have read my recent writing and have let me read theirs. While this situation is helpful and enjoyable, it's important to realize personal preference as much as skill level colors the reader's feedback.
Great answer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone agree? Yeah. That shows us that they're probably going to handle the mentorship stuff very, very well. Thanks for reading that, Noah. That water was delicious. All right. They've obviously taken a lot of steps to pursue a career here, so that's great. We won't delve into all of that, but it's good to know because it's not always important. Someone might have been writing for a long time and their circumstances just kept them kind of outside. We've all seen that happen. Moving forward, what do you hope to gain from mentorship? This is an interesting question. This is a good enough answer. Anyone want to read this one out loud? Why not? I'll just call on somebody if I have to. Hannah, there. Yeah, thank you.
I've experienced how being receptive to a mentor's advice can lead, or rather act as an accelerant to my growth as a writer. In 2022, I was accepted to a competitive screenwriting workshop with a former development exec as a mentor. His advice eventually led to me writing the Fire Dog Killers pilot, which scored in the top 1% across several sites and competitions and caused producers to reach out and hire me as a non-union screenwriter. My writing still has blind spots. I'm hungry to improve, and a mentor's insight would be invaluable. Insight with a capital I. Is it? No, it is a small I. No, it's my eyes.
It's all good.
As far as what I can contribute, I started a script note swapping group for paying members on stage32.com that continues today. I'm a middle tier judge of screenwriting contests, and I have given notes to producers on indie films heading into production. I know how to give and receive notes. I'd love to humbly share some of this insight where possible.
All right. What do we think of this response? Yay, nay?
Great. I like it.
All right. Okay. This is
Like-
fine. Go ahead. Someone had a thought?
Oh, no, I said I like that it's, hey, I've had these successes, but I know I still want to improve, and this is why I am doing this. So there's no bragging, it's all humble.
Yeah, for sure. I think he pretty successfully answered both questions. What does he want to get and what does he want to give? That's good to know. So we can keep moving forward. Solid. These are almost logline outlines. They're all 2 sentences. Not the worst thing in the world. This one's 1. Totally fine. Now, personal statement. This is a great one. I really like this one. That's why I chose this application. So I'll go ahead and read this one as my thirst is now quenched. So I'm drawn to write thrillers, especially those with dark humor. Why? I understand fear being unsafe and survival, and how humor helps us process our lives and move forward. I was born a tiny guy to drug and alcohol addicts in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Mom terrorized me while dad was stuck brooding. Home was bleak and scary. In school, my size, odd name, and effortless good grades meant I was often attacked. I've had school material shoved down my throat, was thrown through a glass window, and bitten through my nose. That's crazy. To survive, I evolved, learned to read people quickly, make people laugh, and make friends. A high school English teacher offered me extra credit to write short stories. I wrote thrillers and dark comedies. Writing helped me gain perspective, and I felt creatively alive. To get away, I joined the army as a Korean linguist. I analyzed how North Koreans might behave in war by working with the defectors who escaped on an underground railroad. The UN command later hired me as a civilian intelligence analyst, and afterwards I studied international relations at Georgetown. I became a professional expert in dictatorships and how people survive them. Humor helped me cope and process along the way. For example, despite my modest upbringing, I married into an upper-class Indian family. During our elegant Hindu wedding, we were all barefoot, except my dad, who sported old socks with Hanes printed on them, because beauty is an attitude. But continuing a career spent analyzing broken countries felt bleak, so I left for my original lifeline, storytelling. Started screenwriting years ago and moved to LA. I was hired to write 3 military dark comedy series on Union. Then my spy thriller pilot placed in the top 1% in several competitions, resulting in me getting hired to write a medical procedural pilot, non-union. I am all in. Fascinated by the experience of survival, and I want to write a thriller series veined with dark comedy. I want to create characters who face visceral, persistent threats and who dig deep and become self-reliant and evolve to survive. No matter how short, poor, Midwestern, ill-taught, or otherwise underdoggy they are, I would love for a mentor to help identify my blind spots and inefficiencies and teach me the inner workings of the industry. I would also love to join a community of veteran writers who are in this together. That's a great response. I know who this person is. I got a sense of the journey. It wasn't all, I love film. That's the number one thing that I don't like in personal statements, is when they only focus on films. We get it. We know. You're applying to a screenwriting program. We all love movies here. It's just how it is. But they painted a really effective picture of who they are. It's funny, it's entertaining, and they can tell a story. So that's great to know. It's an easy yes, right? And we'll move to the sample pretty quick. Just looking at whenever it decides to open. Cool, that looks like a title page to me. That's interesting. This is interesting. This is, I think, formatted based on how the Daniels did their thing. Yeah. Just at a glance, it looks like a screenplay. So you can go through and read and use all of your best judgment to determine how skilled or not skilled they are, whether you think they're ready for this, all of that. But that's more or less that's a good application and a bad application. Any questions here? And then I should be able to show you how to actually complete your reviews.
No, it's good to me.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, do I remember you want us to read 10 pages only of the screenplays?
Yeah,
Or something like that.
You can definitely use your own judgment on that. I would say read enough to get a sense of who they are, you know, how their writing is. If you want to read the whole script because it's great, go for it. But I'm not going to like say you have to go past 10 pages, of course. It should give you enough to get a sense.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you, is it better to read all of the personal information before we read the screenplay?
You kind of broke up there. Did you say, is it better to read the personal information before the rest of the application?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Before the screenplay.
Oh, before the screenplay. You know, that can help. It might be good to just take a look at the writing sample first, just to get a sense of who they are as a writer before you get a sense of who they are as a person. Whatever you feel you need to do as far as order goes to just give yourself the least biased, like going into their application. I hope that answers your question.
I had a quick question as well, Travis.
Yeah, go for it.
So I don't believe I know anybody who's applied, but I'm assuming if we come across somebody we know, we should not review that. Is that correct?
Yes. If you're assigned someone that you know, just let me know. I'll take you off and give you someone else.
Cool.
Anything else? Bueno. All right. Then we'll go ahead and take a look at how to actually complete the review. Here we are. Okay. So this is back to our favorite non-statement application here, the Easy Note, right? So we'll go in and click complete review, just like that big button that pops up. Over here on the right-hand side, you'll see your name, click your name or the complete review button, and this will pop up. I'm going to say this now, please don't use the maybe button. That doesn't give us anything. It doesn't help us pare anything down. I know that there are going to be maybe applications, but try and remember we need firm yeses or nos, at least on this first step, because it's a pretty chunky field we want to get through, and I want you to be definitive. If you see any red flags, go ahead and vote no if you feel that you need to, and just give us a couple sentences about why you think that should be the case. In this particular case, we'll go ahead and say no. The reasons are pretty obvious. Lacking personal statement, writing sample is a letter. I think that's all I need to say. So I'll hit submit review. Definitely do a little bit more than that. That was a little bit short because, you know, we've all already reviewed why this was not the best application in the world, but just give us enough to justify your choice so that we can then go and look through the application before we make a cut and verify, okay, yes, that makes sense why you've made this vote. We agree or disagree, that sort of thing. Let's see. And then when you've submitted your review successfully, it should appear like this. You'll have a little number next to your name. So if it's a no, it should be a negative. If it's a positive, it should be a blue 1. If you hit maybe, it'll show as 0 and I will scream at you. So don't do that. I won't scream. I'm too nice for that. But just so you know, don't vote maybe. I'm telling you now. All right. So that's how you actually physically complete your review. That's pretty much everything here. So any questions before we kind of close things out here? No.
I did have a couple comments to add, but I
Yeah.
can just a few notes that I sort of wanted to remind everyone of before we get started. Okay, just pulled it up. As for the writing sample and logline section, it should be apparent that the ideas that they're submitting are news story ideas. It's something that we've told them, like made it clear to them in the application process. It's not for like workshopping existing scripts. There are some people that no matter what we say, they insist that they're like, no, I'm only going to work on this. And it kind of defeats the purpose of the program since it is about the process. And it's just not a valuable use of the mentor's time to have someone workshopping something they've already written. And inevitably it happens that someone will just say that they haven't worked on it, even though they already have the completed script. There's only so much we could do to navigate that. But if it is apparent that they only want to work on one idea, they've already written it, and they're not interested in any other components of like learning the process of writing a script, then this isn't the program for them. So just kind of keep an eye out for that. Ideally, we also do this. This isn't like a hard rule, but it is good to see when someone's writing sample aligns with their top format and genre preference. So say they mark themselves as advanced. They've written a bunch of TV scripts, but they indicate, I want to write a feature comedy, and it's something they've never done before. That kind of puts them back down to, from our perspective, the beginner level, because if they've only explored this one section, this one style, then they're going to be basically starting from square one. I know it's not exactly how it works, but it does come up in the rooms very often where people want to treat the program as a way of learning something, a entirely new skill to them. So ideally, we do like to see if someone has samples that match their format and genre preference. Just a good sign that they're here to hone their craft rather than learn something new. Two other notes. You'll see there's a lot of tags at the top. One for their format and genre, another for, I think, if they're a multi-year applicant, and then a few others. It also indicates if they're local or not local. This isn't a huge thing, though I will say maybe consider this in the second round more so than the first. We do give the slightest priority to folks who are local, just because now that we're, in the post-COVID times, we're trying to do a little bit more in person. And if 60% of the class is remote, it makes it a little bit difficult. So I would say on the list of things to consider, it's lower, but it is just a minor consideration. That might come more into play in later rounds. But say you're like really debating between two people and you're just not sure if you're going to vote to move one forward, and that's the only difference. One is local and one is not. We just give like the slightest priority to someone who is, trying to make it work in LA. That being said, that rule is mostly applicable to TV writers. at least in my opinion. I think if feature writers do have a bit more flexibility, but there are no writers' rooms in Kansas. There's only so much we could do. So we're trying to keep it real. But I think that was everything. And then on the actual review side, in the review window, you do have the option to edit your review or save it and come back to it. You'll see a little button that if you hover over it, it says edit. So keep that in mind if you start reviewing them and you're like, never mind, I've changed my mind about all these people. By the time you get to the end, that often happens. I find myself being overly generous and then realize I have to cut 90 people off the list. So you can edit off that. And then if there's an application where like you see something strange or it's been run by us or whatever, sometimes there'll be notes in the section next to review. There's one that says notes. Sometimes there's a note in there, and that's usually only in like extreme occasions. I'll go in there if someone's been like aggressively harassing me by email or like doing some really unhinged stuff. But hopefully that won't come up, but it has come up in the past. So just, if you suspect there might be a note on the application, it would be in that little section right next to review. Sorry, that was a lot of stuff, but that was all I had.
That's great. Yeah. Well, any questions at this point?
Nope.
Well, okay. Well, if you
I have a question. So
Yeah.
if we're reviewing these applications, in the middle of the night, Travis, you're available 24/7, right, for support?
I'm available, but maybe not at midnight. We'll see.
Kidding.
Yeah. Go ahead and email me anytime you need to. I'll do my best to respond to stuff as quickly as I can. I'm stupid busy, but like we'll keep my eye on things because this is very, very important, of course, especially during the actual week up. So email me if you have any questions, and definitely now, between now and the review period, if you have any further questions that come up based on what we've come over or any other concerns, just let me know. And if you happen to find out between now and then that someone has applied to the program, definitely shoot me an email so that I don't assign them to you. You all have my information, yeah?
Yeah, and I would say maybe also CC the vets at or programs at
Yeah.
foundation, just one of those, because if Travis can't get to it, I can also try to hop in. So if you CC one of those addresses, that works well.
Anything else, anyone? Bueller? It was mandatory, I'm sorry. All right. Well, thank you all for coming, of course. Spread the word to anyone who wants to review that hasn't filled out the form. I'll still try and squeak them in. We got a lot of things to review, so definitely let us know. But you guys enjoy your evening. I'll be in touch. Kira, anything else to add before we leave?
No, just super grateful for your support. This is truly, it's a daunting process, and I genuinely think it would be impossible to do without you all. So we really, really appreciate it.